Hare Krishna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Make Japa Great Again. And if we could try a social experiment by moving a little closer the circle. For those of you who haven't been part of our Japa circle experience, there's just some slight interjection from the likes of the one who's sitting here speaking right now about various principles of japa. Wherever you're comfortable, think ahead for other people coming in also, and just make space. Thank you. So one of the main points of japa is to be respectful when chanting. And for that reason, there are various attitude adjustments given in the Shastra about not being offensive towards other devotees, respecting other entities like the demigods, and being careful in the way that one conducts oneself in the world, following the instructions of the guru and so forth. So, obviously, it's not just chanting. And in fact, it's mentioned in the Shastra that one can go on chanting for a long time and not make advancement if one doesn't do the other part, which is be conscious of the presence of the holy name as Krishna. I should say that Krishna is present in his holy name fully. As is mentioned in the Shastra, Nam Namakari Bahuna Nija Sarva Shaktis and Apana Samsritim Goranyan Nama Vivashogrinan Tatasadyo Vimucheta Yabhipeti Swayam Bayam. In fact, the first chapter of Bhagavatam starts by declaring this. Narada Muni says, Iti Murti Abhidanena Mantra Murtam Amurtikam Yajite Yagya Purusham Sasamyag Darshana Puman. That the most effective way to have the full darshan of the Lord is to chant Hare Krishna, because that's amurtikam. It's the simplest way, and what's more, it's the most effective because there's no difference between Krishna and his name. So those are some important tenets of chanting japa, and that should lead to an idea of intentionality. And to put it more simply, of being aware that Krishna is present in his holy name. Or to make it even more simple than that, is be aware that you're chanting. Because there's a way in which I can chant and be somewhere else, just as much as I could read a paragraph in a book and have no idea what I just read. And we've all had experience of that, at least I do, practically at every moment. And so that can become the norm in chanting, and in which case chanting isn't as effective as it could be. So to become fully conscious is one of the ways that the Shastra and the great acharyas say we should be careful and be very conscious. So that's one of the purposes of the Japa circle. Somehow when we all come together, there's not much scope for distraction, or much less, because there are other people, and we can notice that they're all chanting, and we may be less inclined to be diverted in our own chanting. So there are 4 quotes I've extracted from Prabhupada's teachings specifically on japa. And I'll read one of them now just to start as a point of meditation. And then I also recommend that if you're starting or restarting, since I just interrupted some of you, to make a declaration, a personal declaration, why you're chanting, sometimes called a sankalpa. What's my purpose in doing this? Why am I chanting? And that helps to focus the mind and become more aware that I'm chanting to Krishna. I'm not just chanting mindlessly. So here's the first quote. And it's a letter. All of these are letters. And Prabhupada wrote on the 11th That is the November 1968. He said, the yoga system is approved, but nobody can follow the rules and regulations strictly. Neither there is suitable place for executing it, and everyone is always full of anxiety. So how they can concentrate? So best thing is to chant Hare Krishna, which is forced meditation. And of course, that may be a little open for interpretation, forced meditation, but one idea is, may the force be with you, because the sense of force is there, and that Nija Sarva Shaktis, all of Krishna's personal powers are there within his holy name. There's no difference at all. And there's also a sense of, in Japanese Buddhism, there's a term for achieving something on one's own strength, by one's own strength, and there's also another concept, which is the one that this particular sect of Buddhism adopts, which is that everything's dependent on the power of the Lord. We just have to be receptive for it. So forced meditation means accepting the power of the holy name, not blocking it. And then another sense of force is in the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, of all places. Prayana kale manasa chalena bhaktya yukto yoga balena chaiva. Krishna says yoga balena. He mentions this, and Prabhupada makes much of it in his purport, saying that you have to develop a kind of balena, or strength. A kind of you have to have your own sense of force that you develop in order to be successful in the yoga process. Prabhupada confirms that. You can't just make up for lost time at the moment of death. You have to be really ready and have a sense that you're already going in a certain direction. You're already gone, actually. And that comes from the force of the holy name. In that sense, it's forced meditation also. And then finally, in this japa circle, we take the force and power of others chanting. As I mentioned in the beginning, there's a sense when others are around, we can draw from their own from their sincerity and the very fact that everybody just showed up. You don't have to say much more. You voted with your feet and you're here. So it reaffirms the mind's sense that, well, maybe I should be doing something else, which is the enemy to japa, because there is no place else to be. But the mind always thinks, in the sense of wandering the universe, that maybe there's some other place that would be more satisfactory. But when we have everyone around us, there's a fortifying way in which we feel satisfied that, well, everybody else is here. This must be okay. So I'll just keep chanting. So I'll just read the quote one more time and then we commence. Yoga system is approved, but nobody can follow the rules and regulations strictly. Neither there is suitable place for executing it, and everyone is always full of anxiety. So how they can concentrate? So best thing is to chant Hare Krishna, which is a forced meditation. So may the force be with us. And if you'd like to make your own personal sankalpa, then you can, I suggest before you start chanting the mantra, then just say something to Krishna, either silently in your mind, or you can whisper it out loud that, Krishna, this is why I'm chanting. And before you do, everyone move up by 7.2 inches, please. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda. As advertised, just a brief interjection. How's everyone doing? That's a hard thing because he said everyone. Were you conscious that you were chanting? Full time? Sometimes? Yeah, it's good to... Yeah, because there's a way in which I'm used to doing many things at the same time, especially letting them go in various places. So the discipline of chanting. And of course, paradoxically, once we become aware of the chanting, then it's not a chore. It doesn't feel like that we're disciplining ourselves, but it becomes pleasurable because we're able to hear the name and then we're naturally attracted. That kind of absorption is where most of the advancement takes place. Nonetheless, just going back briefly to the idea of forced meditation. And although Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Samoham sarvabhuteshu nami dveshostina priyaha, I don't get so involved in the life of the jiva because I want the jiva to express his or her own sense of independence. And nonetheless, if someone expresses a desire to worship Krishna, that maite teshu chapyaham, then there's a way that Krishna becomes personally involved. I'm in him and he's in me. And the holy name is arguably a little aggressive because although the material world's here as a fool's paradise for living entities to try to live out their fantasy of being independent from God, the holy name enters as an avatar and interjects himself into the lives of the jivas. And it doesn't take that much because as in various places of the Shastras, it's said that if somebody accidentally chants the holy name of the Lord, for instance, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd chapter, 55th verse, it is said, Vrishrijati hridayam na yasya saksha darir avasha abhihito pyagoganasha. That even those who incidentally or accidentally say Hare Krishna, try it. He said that Krishna has a tendency to remove a multitude of sinful reactions from the heart of that person. And there's a story in the Chaitanya Bhagavat where Gadadhar Das, one of the devotees of Lord Nityananda, had gone to the Nawab and to the palace and had demanded that he come out and chant Hare Krishna, which is a courageous thing to do because he could have been killed just for walking in there unannounced. And there was a brouhaha in the front lobby, so much so that the king himself came out and said, what are you doing out here? And why are you causing these problems? He said, you just chant Hare Krishna. And the king replied, some other day I'll chant Hare Krishna. And then Gadadhar Das started dancing and said, you've already done it. So there's a sense that devotees have, based on Shastra, that we take the mission of the holy name, which is to go out and speak it into the, as Prabhupada once said, the snake-like ear holes of the conditioned soul, including myself. I'll say it to myself as a conditioned soul that I'm forcing myself to hear the holy name. Knowingly or unknowingly, people get this, the power, the force of the holy name, and that's his intention. He comes to the world with the idea of entering all various crevasses of the world, including the ears of those who are blind to the truth, and then opening their hearts to the idea that maybe there's a relationship there somewhere that they could enter into. And Krishna's eager to encourage that, even though he's at arm's length. Samaham sarvabhuteshu, the holy name's a little different. He goes everywhere and enters the hearts, the minds, even of those who didn't intend to chant Hare Krishna. And it takes a lot of effort for people not to chant Hare Krishna. I've noticed one time I was in New York City and we were having a Harinam down the street, and it was so blissful that I was thinking nobody could resist this. And then I saw these workers and they were loading boxes on the sidewalk, and we were 2 feet away from them. The power of the Harinam was undeniable, but somehow or other they pretended like it wasn't there. And I thought, this is the dichotomy between the power of the holy name and the will of a conditioned soul to not let it come in. But it has to have its effect anyway. Come home and speak it and say, yeah, I resisted the Hare Krishnas today, or whatever it is. But the holy name forces its way into the material world and into the hearts of the conditioned souls. And then, lo and behold, those who thought, I'll never be a Hare Krishna, next thing you know, Hare Krishna. So the logic of the Shastra then is that what to speak of those who cultivate knowledge of what the holy name is and then deliberately sit in a room somewhere in the east coast of India and just chant with full concentration. What to speak of somebody like that? If it incidentally has such an effect on a conditioned soul, those who are sadhakas, who sit down and say, I understand what this is, I understand the power of the holy name, and I'm going to give my full attention here. What's going to happen to those people? Well, who knows? Even Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the last verse of his Sharanagati says, I don't know what power the holy name has over me. He doesn't let me understand anything. He just makes me mad. And he said, and incidentally, I'm noticing he's taking me by the hand and taking me back to Goloka, introducing me to my relationship with him in the spiritual world. All this he does by his own power. So that force of the holy name is important to remember again and again. It's the lifeblood of the practice of bhakti yoga. If we don't do anything else, but we just chant Hare Krishna, we'll be successful if we chant Hare Krishna with this awareness that we're inviting Krishna to come into our hearts. And what is, if you say a charge and charged, what is the form of speech of charged? Is what? I can't hear anybody. So like force and forced. That's a past tense, but I meant it in a different way, and I'll try to explain it later because I don't want to take too much more time. Everybody okay? Yes. Better than okay, right? Yes. Yeah. It takes a lot of effort for a yajna and to set it up and then to break it down and go home. That takes as much effort, but the time when you're actually together and you do it is very short, but it's extremely powerful. So we can remember that, and with every mantra try to bring our awareness back to the powerful holy name, which is charged with spiritual potency. We have just a few more minutes to chant, so we'll make the last 5-6 minutes really count. Gaur Premanande Haribol. Thank you everyone for joining. Make Japa great again. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, don't try to be a great devotee, to be a good devotee. But to be a good devotee, you have to chant great japa.